feel free to interrupt me, because this cannot be a formal lecture, and since everyone's background is so varied, the issues which is of relevance to you is going to be quite varied. So I think if there's some particular issue which I've not covered, I'd be happy if you bring it up with me. In medicine, as we all know, the core tenet in the Hippocratic Oath, whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, if it should be what should not be published abroad, I will never divulge, holding such things to be holy secrets. Now this is an oath all of us doctors take when we get our degree. On one hand, we have the Hippocratic Oath, but on the other hand, you're dealing with doctors who are also human beings. And Benjamin Franklin really encapsulated it very well, saying that 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. So how do we marry both these concepts? The definition of confidentiality is entrusting information to another with the expectation that it will be kept private. Why bother with confidentiality? I'd noticed there were a few gynecologists. Could somebody tell me?
Termination of pregnancy and contraception are the 2 major areas where people don't want to divulge their...
That's right. And why would you say that confidentiality is important? I mean, why would it be important to protect confidentiality?
It may have social implications of which the women are very scared.
That's right.
That's
okay.
One major reason.
So the core 3 points are why we bother with confidentiality is that it obviously respects the privacy of patients. It encourages them to seek medical care and discuss problems candidly. And probably in no other field is it important as in HIV/AIDS in today's world. Whereas if you feel that you're going to blindly inform partners without thought, which sensible patient is going to come to your setup for testing? So, but on the other hand, disclosure is important in certain situations, so we'll come to that. And the other important aspect of confidentiality is that it prevents discrimination based on medical condition, whether it is social stigma associated with a medical termination of pregnancy, or disclosing that you have HIV/AIDS unnecessarily in the workplace, or even certain psychiatric conditions. The basic legal tenet is that legal action against doctors can be taken if confidentiality is broken, unless it is required by law and if there is a duty to warn others. When you look at the literature in this area, I don't know whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, there is not much information in India. As far as I know, no doctor in India has been taken to court for breach of confidentiality. When I discussed this with a lawyer friend, what she said is that people have been taken to court for defamation, which is a different issue, but if you bring up something about medical treatment or medical condition which without the authorization of the patient, he could technically sue you for defamation. Abroad, in US, it is a big issue. In UK, it's also an issue. So the law is very clear as to certain situations where confidentiality can be broken and some situations where it cannot be. Now, there are certain issues which people would need to be aware of. This concept of privacy, that is the freedom of the individual to pick and choose for himself the time, the circumstances, and particularly the extent to which he wishes to withhold from others his attitudes, beliefs, behavior, and opinion. Privilege is actually a legal concept, and it is the right of an individual to control which information communicated in confidence can be revealed in a judicial or administrative proceeding, and the right to waive it is with the patient, not the doctor. And later when we discuss, and if you have questions on this, we could talk a little more about that. And sometimes I find in India, people are still catching up on this. I think we're so used to being in a community. I find that sometimes I have to tell patients that, look, you have a right to confidentiality. You don't have to disclose this to everybody else. And sometimes people don't think through the problems of just saying that they say, fine, you can discuss this with X, Y, and Z. And I sometimes tell them, no, I need to discuss this only with your wife or only with your primary caregiver. I don't need to discuss this with everybody else. It's a good thing that we have family support, but we have to be careful that it doesn't get into the way of treatment for the patient. The other practical issue when we are talking about ethics is that wherever there's an ethical conflict, people tend to say, okay, look at the law and see what the law tells you. And it's difficult to use law to answer most ethical questions because, not surprisingly, a lot of the ethical dilemmas are not black or white. There are, yes, no, but, so we really need to discuss that. And somebody put it very well, saying that there is an abstraction called the law, which is reliable, predictable, and standard. Actually, the law, even in statute, means only what the last judge who interpreted it means. So we really can't look at the law to answer ethical dilemmas. Now, I'd like to spend a little time discussing this. Confidentiality in special situations. This would seem as common sense, but we just go over that. Obviously, confidentiality does not hold when the patient is dangerous to themselves or to others. And probably in psychiatry more than any other field, because we deal with patients who are potentially suicidal, that is something we make very clear to patients, that what you tell me would be confidential, but if I feel there is a risk of you harming yourself or others, I would break confidentiality. And that's never been a problem when you discuss that with patients. Patients don't, in fact, they feel good that you take confidentiality seriously enough for you to say that. The other issue is child abuse. Now, abroad, by law, you're required that if you suspect physical or sexual abuse, you report it. In India, the law is not that clear. Technically speaking, you could do that. But in practical practice, I don't know if there's any pediatrician here. I didn't hear. There's no pediatrician here. Okay. So the practical point is that when you're dealing with children in an Indian setting, I feel if you just blindly go and report, you're just creating a huge problem. And I think the first law in medicine is do no harm. And I think if you blindly break confidentiality and open literally a powder keg, it's going to be a problem. So the first thing you would do is make sure the child is not at further risk. So if the child is in hospital and you suspect that there is child abuse going on, the first common sense thing you do is don't discharge immediately. Give it time. You involve a social worker. You would definitely, if you feel that the abuser is the father or the uncle, involve the people who are not abusing and gradually disclose to them and help them find a practical solution. If you straight away go and tell them, or you inform the police or something like that, you will create a bigger problem. Your first duty is to protect the child, and the last thing you want is to destroy the family. So, but then on the other hand, if it is something that the family is going to break up because of this, so be it, but the decision would have to be with the mother or the other non-abusing people in the family. Then the other practical point is with HIV and AIDS. I've noticed quite a few of you all are working with HIV and AIDS. What is your opinion about confidentiality there?
We have had cases in our organization where there are would-be husbands or wives who do not wish to divulge their status, and in such cases we resort to counseling, in which the importance of revealing the status to the would-be spouse is made very important, and if needed the person is also welcome to bring along the would-be spouse for counseling, so that there's joint counseling. The implications of marrying a person with HIV/AIDS is also discussed, and people are advised what they should do or should not do when they adopt a high-risk behavior. So confidentiality is very important in these cases. Of course, there are many cases in which people feel that when they go to some other government hospitals or other places where their confidentiality is infringed upon, but by and large, confidentiality is an issue that is given a lot of importance.
Yeah, absolutely. As we said right at the beginning, confidentiality really allows you to treat properly. So if you get the reputation of not keeping confidentiality, people are unlikely to come back to you. I think you wanted to add something? Yeah.
In continuation of what she said about the confidentiality, I mean, our experiences also have been, when some of the trials which have been taking place in government hospital, in that specific unit, all confidentiality was taken. But with this patient required some help from other departments in the hospital. The doctor would not write any kind of a mark that it is HIV positive or anything, but the very fact that they have come from that itself brings in a lot of stigma with that. So we were really discussing how best we can reduce this kind of a conflict, because you are an HIV positive person, then we will take you right in the end. So those are the kind of difficulties. So one unit has already taken care of all the confidentiality matter, but the moment it is referred to another, so those kinds of things really become quite a challenging thing. and we need to see how best, as a part of trial participants, how we can really overcome those kinds of challenges.
Okay.
Where would you place domestic violence victims in violence victims?
I think in my own experience with domestic violence, the reason it is very difficult to deal with is that sometimes the women don't want to take a stand. In fact, it's very strange that you say this because I just saw somebody in OPD in the last 1 week where she was, a person was brought by his employer saying that he was referred from neurology because he was having some headache, and the neurologist said go to psychiatry. So he came to me with his wife and the employer, and he basically gave some vague history of headache and some depression, and the employer said no, admit him. So I said this doesn't warrant admission, we can treat as an outpatient. And I spoke to the wife, and in psychiatry we make it a rule to initially speak to patient and the wife together and then speak to them separately, just to make sure we don't miss anything. And I spoke to the wife separately and she said there's no other problem. Then the employer came back and said no, he beats his wife regularly and beats her black and blue. So I called her back and I said, has that happened? She said no. So then I called the employer back and I said, look, if she is being hit, then I think I would need to admit him to evaluate, because I can't even go into that area as an outpatient, because then he won't come back for admission. So then I'd rather use this issue of his headache and the psychiatric problem to admit him. And it took about 15 minutes in OPD with the employer, and finally the employer shouted at the wife saying that, look, I brought her here, you better tell doctor everything openly. And then she said, yes, it happens once in a way, but it's not a problem, it was worse earlier. So I had to say, okay, we will handle that. So the point is that where the wife is willing to take a stand, then we could do it. But a lot of the wives, because they don't want to cause problems to the children or things like that, then it would be a huge practical problem. So what we do in these situations is that with the wife's permission, we slowly deal with them. The first thing we ask them is, do you want to stay on in this marriage? That's your choice. If you want to stay on, then we will work with your husband, and if the husband acknowledges he's got an anger problem or whatever, we can work very easily with that. But sometimes if the wife refuses permission, she says, no, don't even ask him that. If he knows I've told you this, that's going to create a bigger problem, then I don't bring it up then and there. I continue to see them as an outpatient over 3-4 sessions and build up a relationship so that even the husband is comfortable enough to see us and not threatened by us asking. Then we could definitely go ahead. It's not like one session. It would need several sessions.
I can quote my own example when I'm working as IRB coordinator in Voyage Care, as I said. Once what happened, there was one study in which in our organization, which was a sub-study of a Bayes study, for which healthy volunteers had to be recruited. So our lab people wanted a large number of participants, so they were not able to get many, so they asked us to volunteers, and we volunteered as healthy volunteers. And what happened, and we were allowed some free tests, x-rays and all that. So I had gone to the x-ray department within the larger within the larger hospital complex, voluntary health services. There the person taking the x-ray, he just asked where I am from. He did not know that I am coming as part of the study. I said I am from Voyage Care. He assumed that I am a patient of Voyage Care, and he said, just like that, he just threw an offhand comment. He said, I have seen you in Thousand Lights area, which I know is a cruising point. Okay, and then I said I have not been to that area. I mean, I was not able to comprehend why he was saying this, but I mean, the way he looked at me and the way he spoke to me, I mean, I was feeling sort of disturbed. Then I went back to my office and I told the administrative officer that this person there, he asked me whether I am from Thousand Lights area after learning from that I am from Voyage Care. Then the administrative officer got offended. He said, how can the lab technician of that hospital talk to the IRB coordinator of Voyage Care like this? I'll immediately go and make an issue about it. But he went and spoke to that person and gave him 4 warnings, because here it is not the question of a staff of Voyage Care being discriminated or anything, but the fact that a